I'm Kelly from Business Tasmania, and joining me today is Talora from KingThing with the support of the Department of State Growth. And this session is all about AI and how you can learn about AI and gain efficiencies in your business.
Well, thank you very much for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to you all about AI for small business, tools to save you some time and money. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Talora and I work with KingThing Marketing, and quite fortunate to be able to work with the Department of State Growth to deliver presentations such as this one. Before we begin, I would like to honour the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, the elders past and present, and thank them for the place we all call home. So today's session is a bit more of an overview introduction into AI. So we're going to have a look at what is artificial intelligence, why AI matters for small businesses. We're then going to look at some of the AI tools that you can utilise with some real world examples, and then some common questions and concerns around AI itself. But please feel free to ask those questions throughout. I'll also allow some time at the end to ask questions. So firstly, what is AI or artificial intelligence? So AI is basically technology that helps machines think and make decisions. So the idea is that it can help us complete tasks that usually need human intelligence. And the way that they do that is that they are trained to learn patterns and improve over time so that they can get better at doing those tasks and making those tasks feel more human-like. In fact, you probably have been using it for many years and not even realizing that you're utilizing it. So tools such as Google Maps, predictive text, streaming recommendations, they all use a form of artificial intelligence to be able to utilize that to make that service happen. And AI is something that's always evolving. So one of the most important things to understand about AI is that it is constantly evolving. So what seemed like, I guess, science fiction just a few years ago is now part of everyday life. But it doesn't really stop there. New models, updates, and capabilities are being released all the time. In fact, sometimes we can have an idea about how it works today, but then tomorrow it can be completely different because something might have come in that might have changed the way that AI works. So in order to make the most out of AI going forward, we need to always make sure that we're staying curious, we're adaptable and open to learning about new AI that's happening, because the only constant in this space is change. So why should small businesses use AI? So the things that I love about using AI is that it really does save time on repetitive tasks, particularly anything that has can save us time when it's writing emails or doing some of those boring admin tasks that we know we have to do as a small business. If we can eliminate some of that time spent doing that, so we can actually spend time doing the things that we love doing, that's a big tick in my eyes. So that's where AI can come in really handy. It also can reduce stress and manual work. It can boost productivity because you're doing more with less. And as I said before, doing more of the things that you actually love and want to be doing within your businesses. It can improve customer experiences because they're able to find answers faster. They're able to feel like they're being taken on more of a journey and be able to actually find out what it is that they need to know before they make a purchase. And it can help us make better decisions faster. So in terms of the 4 key areas that we're going to look at today about how AI can help your small business, is we're going to focus around marketing, content creation, customer service, and then admin and operations. Are there any questions so far before we dive into this section?
So far, Talora.
Beautiful. So the first thing we're going to look at is some AI tools that help with marketing. So this is probably one of the sections, I guess, that a lot of people are starting to utilize AI technology in. So I'm just going to go through some of the tools that are available to help you in this area. This is no exhaustive list, but it is a start. And then I'm actually going to take you through some examples of how you can actually utilize these tools from a marketing perspective. So the first is ChatGPT, probably one of the more commonly used AI tools. It's really great for helping us from a marketing perspective to get content ideas, help us start captions, compare audience notes, looking at what your competitors are doing, product descriptions, all of the, I guess, things that we might do, whether it be on our website or maybe on social media, might be our advertising. It can help with all of that. Jasper is a marketing specific AI tool, so it can help us with marketing, copy, and blog writing. Do note that Jasper is a paid AI tool, so they have different packages for different people, but it can be really clever in what it can do and really understand your business on a deeper level so that it can ensure that you've got that branding consistency. For those of us who might utilize Canva, you can actually use their AI technology called Magic Write to help you write social posts. And you can also utilize this to help you create visuals through AI, which I will show you as well. So Surfer SEO is an SEO optimized blog writing tool. So if you've got a keyword that you want to make sure you're writing a blog about to utilize as a landing page on your website to get more traffic from Google, Surfer SEO can help you with that by asking you what your keyword is and what you want the topic to be around and actually write that blog for you. Grammarly, so this one's been around for a very long time, but it is a great tool for helping us check our spelling, grammar, and tone corrections. So it will start to automatically do that within documents and have a little symbol that appears on our pages when we are writing any pieces of content. Hemingway, so this is a really great tool that makes writing clearer and easier to read. It tells us what level we're at in terms of people being able to understand that content, so we can ensure that our audience can actually understand what it is that we're writing about. And then Copy AI, so this is instant copy for emails, ads, and more. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what this looks like and how you can utilize this. So in this first example, I've utilized the tool ChatGPT and asked it to write a product description for a handmade soy candle. So as you can see, I didn't put a lot of detail into this. I've just put a little bit of information there, and then it's come back with an answer, including a product name, a bit of a description around that. It's also added details such as burn time, size, and handmade in Tasmania. Some of that information is probably because of some other work that I've done in the past on there, and it understands that I work in that Tasmanian market around that handmade Tasmanian product. So if you start to utilize it all the time, it's going to learn that in its memory so that it can pull upon it down the track. And then it's also added the line around perfect for gifting or keeping all to yourself. So what it's done, it's not only thought about what that product description might be like, but it's also pulled in information that they know people would like to look at, such as burn time and size, and then made note that in the past I've talked about the fact that we've got lots of products made in Tasmania, so they're going to pull that into there. And if you wanted to then utilize that, you could simply copy and paste that, adjust as necessary, so that you can then add that to your website product description for that handmade soy candle. So the next thing that I've done on ChatGPT is I've actually asked it to give me content ideas / content pillars for a social media page for an automotive business. We want to create posts that stand out and showcase our values of trust, integrity, and hard work. And so then what it does is it actually breaks down what those content pillars could look like, why it works, and then some different ideas for us to actually trial as part of that social media theme. So it can be a really great way to help us brainstorm ideas and understand some different ways in which we can bring in things that are unique to our business. So by adding the fact that we want to make sure that it showcases our values and listing what those values are, we can make sure that it understands that and brings that into the ideas that it's generating for us. So Jasper AI is the tool that I mentioned before that's specific for just marketing. But this is kind of a bit of an idea around what sort of prompts we can put within that tool so we can generate creative ideas. So really great for that brainstorming as a team if you're trying to think of a unique way or a unique campaign idea to do something differently. If you're wanting to improve your SEO, so that's your search engine optimization or your ability to be found in a Google search. If you're looking to improve that content that you've got on your website, or maybe you've got a blog post that you want to improve, it can provide some tips on how you can do that. If you want to generate some content outlines to get you started, it can also help with that. Same with enhancing social media engagement by having some features set up to actually automate that process. You can create personal branding content, develop email marketing content, which for those of us who do write emails for our customers regularly, it can be quite a time-consuming task. So by having something like this to assist us with this, it will certainly help speed up that process. The other things it can do is generate content for press releases. So if this isn't something that your business does all the time, it's a great way to be able to make sure that you are doing it correctly with a current format or template. And so it's a great tool to be able to utilize for features like that. And it can also help us with creating engaging video scripts so that we can then go on and film those videos for our social channels or for our websites. So this is an example of the tool Surfer SEO. So what we do within this is we actually give it a keyword that we want to rank for, and then it will go and create a title and description for that from an SEO perspective, but also then go and write the actual information that you should put on that page. And in this instance, it's a blog to tell us what we should write so that we can ensure that it's best practice for SEO. So as you can see in this example, the keyword is content marketing. And so then it makes sure that it puts it in the relevant places and then gives our content score out of 100 to make sure that we've got enough of the different things that we need to actually optimize it for SEO. It will also make some suggested changes underneath to be able to make that better and improve that content score. And then Hemingway. So this is a tool where we can actually add our writing to it that we have done, and then it will give us a readability score. So for example, on the right-hand side here, you can see that the readability is a grade 8 and that's come back as good. So what this tool wants us to do is to make sure that we've got that level at a good level so that anyone can jump on there and understand it. In Australia, we want to make sure that we're writing for at least a grade 10 student. And so if it's anything higher than that, it's going to tell us that this is too complex and we need to bring it back to a bit more of a basic format so that people can understand what it is that you're writing about. So it's a good measure to make sure that we're not including too much industry jargon that's confusing for our customers. So that's a little bit of an overview on some of the marketing AI tools that you can use. Are there any questions about any of those tools that we've just been through?
Not yet, Laura, but just a reminder to everyone, you can use the Q&A function to write a question and I'll ask it on your behalf, or feel free to raise your virtual hand.
Perfect. So this next section still ties into marketing, but it's just focusing more specifically on content creation. So there are a number of AI tools that can help us in this space. So some of these include Descript, which is a tool that lets us edit video and audio using text. Canva, so it has an AI-powered design, which lets us resize. We can use our branding kits to pull in our branding to keep it more consistent. Remove.bg, this helps remove image backgrounds, which can be handy if there's something there that you don't want there, or if you're doing product shots for a website and you want it to just have a clear white background. Looker, that helps us generate logos and branding, particularly for a new small business or just starting out and we don't have the income to actually afford a graphic designer to create our logo. This could be a really good starting point for some people. Photo Room allows us to edit product photos and makes that process much easier just with a couple of clicks when we tell it how we actually want that image to look. Lumen 5 turns blogs into videos, so that can be really handy to make sure that we've got another form of content that we could add to our YouTube, or maybe we want to create some reels off that to then go on Instagram that then points people to go and read our blog on our website. And then Pictory creates short video content for socials. So in a similar nature, you could have a really big video or a big showcase, and then you could ask Pictory to break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces so that it creates a bit more intrigue and gets them to want to click onto your website to learn more information. So just as some examples of how you could utilize these tools into your business from a content perspective. So Canva AI, it allows us to put some information in there. So in this example, I've asked it to create a poster about our upcoming event, Day in the Vines. Tickets are $49 per person, and the event goes from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. As you'll see, it then comes back with some different options for us to choose from, and then we can actually go back to it and ask it to refine our design. So we can select one of the core bases that we like there, and then we can give it more information to actually refine that design further and get it actually looking how we would like it to. And that saves us the time of going and having to edit and create that poster ourselves, and create something that can still stand out and be visually appealing.
Can I jump in there? The question?
Yeah, of course.
Apart from Jasper, are all of the tools free?
Great question. Most of the tools do have a free trial period at least, for at least 7 to 14 days. But that Jasper one was the only one that I know that you have to pay for. You can't even do a free trial. I tried, but it wouldn't let me. Yeah, so most of them allow us to have at least a free trial, and then some do have ongoing costs where things like ChatGPT, they don't have they do have a free version that you can just continue using. It just doesn't allow us to learn as much information and save some of that detail that you might want it to keep learning to have, so that you can refer back to it at a later stage.
Thank you. And another question was someone asking about, will they access these slides? And yes, absolutely. We'll email out, if not tomorrow at the latest. And that's, let you get back to it, Laura.
No worries. Just to further to that question before around the pricing, I was initially going to include that all in this particular presentation, but the reason I didn't is just because they keep changing whether or not they're free or if they're now on paid plans. So I utilize a couple of tools in-house that were on free plans, and now they've actually just switched to a paid model only. And so it is getting quite confusing from that perspective to understand whether or not they're free or if they're paid. So I think the idea is that platforms are coming out into market. They're starting as free so that they can get people hooked onto them, using them. And then over a period of time, they're quickly changing them to then be paid, so that they can make some money out of it, which I understand, but yeah, it can be quite frustrating. So I just thought it was best just to exclude it so that there was a bit more longevity out of the presentation. So the next tool is Remove BG. So this is the one that I mentioned where you could upload a photo and then you could remove the entire background if you wanted that all removed, or if you wanted to just erase certain parts of it. Maybe there was a rubbish bin in the background that you didn't want to keep in there. So you can upload your original photo, and then it'll perform its work to actually remove the entire background or erase certain parts of it. You can add effects, and then you can download that ready to utilize as an image wherever else you would like to use that. So this one is Looker. So Looker is one of the newer ones out there in terms of creating logos and branding for businesses. So the way that it works is we provide it prompts such as what your business name is, what maybe you want, what industry you work in, what sort of symbols you might like to have with your logo, what colors do you like? So it kind of prompts you through a couple of different questions, and sometimes it feels like it asks the same questions just in different ways. And then after it's done that, it will actually generate some logos for you to consider. So you can see here a bit of a design preview and some different versions, and then you can click on those and refine those further. Now, again, this has a free version, but then turns into more of a paid version, I think, if you actually want to download and utilize that logo. But it is a much more, I guess, cost-effective way for us to be able to do that, rather than engaging with a graphic designer to design our logo, particularly if we are a new small business.
Laura, another question. I'll just jump. Sorry, Laura, I think we've got a little lag there. Sorry about that. Are the images in Canva, in the Canva example, copyright free, or do they need to be attributed?
Great question. I actually don't know the answer to that, but I will double check. I don't imagine that you would have to copyright them because it's generated by their AI tool. But I will need to double check that one. So if they're happy to leave their contact information, I'm happy to follow that one up.
Sure, we'll get back to them for you. Yeah, once you get an answer. Thank you.
So the next tool, Pictory. So this is a really great tool to, it has many different features, but one of the ones that I really like around it is the AI voice generator. So it can actually create realistic voiceovers to go on your video. You can choose the language of that voiceover. So it's a great way if you do have customers who are in different countries and speak different languages, you could actually utilize this to put in the text of what you would like it to say, and then it will have somebody read it in the language that you've selected. So it can be really good if you're starting to work in international markets and you want to have some of your video content have captions or voiceover that actually is in their native language. So that is some of the tools around content creation. So the next AI tools that we're going to look at are to help with customer service. So these, again, are just a couple of them that exist in the market. So Tedio, it's a chatbot for websites and social media. Intercom, a very similar type thing. So it's customer messaging and AI support. And so the idea behind either of those is that we can help filter out some of those frequently asked questions that people might have, or maybe point them in the right direction so that you don't have to deal with so many inquiries coming through your contact forms or maybe through your regular emails, because they might be able to find the answer for them. If they weren't able to then find the answer they're looking for, there would be the ability to then connect them with a real person to actually chat through and find out the answer to their question. ManyChat is a automated reply for Facebook and Instagram direct messages. So you may have seen on Instagram in particular, it asks people in the caption of a post to comment a certain key phrase and they'll send them some more information. So that works through a tool such as ManyChat, where you set up what that key phrase is and then it triggers a response to automatically go to those people's direct messages. And then from there, depending on what they type back or maybe what options you've provided as part of that, it can actually create even more replies that are automated to really help point them in the right direction of what it is that that piece of content is talking about. Freshdesk is a help desk automation, so that can be really helpful if you wanted to have that sort of support on your website for people to go to first before they come to you with the questions about how they can get their product working, particularly if you've got common issues that people just aren't doing the right thing. So it's a way for us to be able to step them through that rather than having to contact us straight away about it. And then Google Call Screening. So this filters calls on Android phones to make sure that we are getting the right calls coming through to us where we can answer questions, whereas it will also have some preset frequently asked questions to help people with their answers. And so just so you can see some of these in action, so this is Tedio. We can actually set up templates so that then there's a little button that they add on their website saying I'm there to help, and then you can get them to ask their questions, and then you can make sure you've got some responses set up with that. Another example of automation set up from a customer service perspective is using tools such as Calendly, where you can actually then set up your booking appointment slots. And what it does is it then also automates through Instagram when you've got a link there or on your website so that people can open that up. They can select their date and time, they can choose which one they want, they book in their email, and then it confirms that booking for them, and you don't have to do anything. That's all set up and interactive as part of that tool. So an example of ManyChat, so this is just using the one where we use that key phrase and it gets that 10% off that order. They confirm their email address and then they get that code. So then they'd be provided that shop now link. So it's all about engaging with that customer and keeping them happy and also getting them to take action based off what it is that you've asked them to do. By also asking them to comment keywords on our posts, it also improves our engagement, which helps keep the algorithm on Facebook and Instagram happy. So it's a win-win all round. Are there any questions around that piece of work before we go into admin?
Not so far to Laura, but do feel free to jump in, anyone, if you do, Q&A or the virtual hand. So it doesn't look like it to Laura, so feel free to keep going.
Cool. So this is probably my favourite area where I find AI the most helpful out of everything that I do, because I don't know about you, but I find admin tasks quite tedious. So anything that I can do to speed up that process, I'm absolutely all here for it. So these are just some of the tools that can help. And then again, I'll go through some of the examples. So the first is Notion AI. So this can really help you with summarizing notes, writing emails, and generating ideas. Otter AI, so this can transcribe meetings or interviews. ClickUp AI, which is a project management support tool. Calendly, the automated meeting booking. Xero and Dex, so really great for bookkeeping, adding your receipts and invoicing. Zapier, so this automates tasks between apps. Microsoft Copilot / Google Gemini, so depending if you're a Microsoft user or a Google user, both of these platforms work in the same way, and they're built-in AI to the documents or email system that you're utilizing. And then ChatGPT, which can help us write replies to emails, create presentations, proposals, grants, etc. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of what some of these look like. So this one here is Otter. So Otter is really great for taking meeting minutes. So for those of us who have meetings all the time and we want to make sure that we're getting all of the key information out of it, or we might want to refer back to it at a later time, maybe if we're interviewing someone and then we want to write a story about them, whatever that looks like, Otter can actually record what that conversation looks like. If you have action points, you can ask it to say, make these an action, or say who's saying what, so that we can go back and look at that and refer to it. So a really great way to be able to do that, whilst, particularly if you are a one-person show and you don't have another team member available at that time to actually help with those meeting minutes. In that particular example too, it was actually an interview. So we were able to utilize the questions that we were asking and then hear their response back so that we could refer back to it at a later stage. So if we did come down to 2 applicants and we weren't sure which one we could actually said that answer, we could actually refer back to this transcript and say, oh, actually, no, it was Daniel that said that, not that other person that we've interviewed.
Laura, can I jump in with a question?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know what I put into AI apps is secure and safe? Is some content then put onto the app to help other people? So is a version like Microsoft Copilot more secure if it is part of a Microsoft 365 subscription?
Great question. So I guess if you were to ask Microsoft or Google, they will tell us straight away that their platforms are definitely more secure, because you do have to be logged in. They've obviously got a fair bit of investment around their tools so that they can make sure that they do have that security. I guess like any platform on the internet, I would say that just be really mindful of the passwords that you're using. If anything was coming up saying that password's been corrupted, make sure you change it. So I guess it's no different to anything else that we do on the internet. They all should have a form of security. But yeah, just be vigilant, just like you would be if you were shopping online.
Was it a hand raised? Yeah, I think so. But please feel free to ask a follow-up question. And we just had a hand raised. So I think Xing's enabled the functionality. So feel free to ask your question.
It's Jane, thank you. I can't see that I've got the written question option, so that's why I raised my hand. The question Q&A.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, but feel free to ask your question.
No worries. So back to that other screen, the previous screen, Laura.
This one.
So, yeah. So what was the name of that tool again?
Oh, so the tool is otter.ai.
Oh, right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's all. Thank you.
No, that's okay.
Perfect. Thanks to Laura.
So the next example here is utilizing the tool ClickUp. So this is really great for those of us who are managing multiple projects. It can create, I guess, streamlines or tasks lists for us. It can help bring meeting notes into it. We can have different templates created for us from a project perspective. So it has a realm of possibilities, and you can see that there's different spaces for everything. So if you're a business starting out, a large business, you might have different sections that have their own folder that actually have their own project plan, I guess, attached to it. So the idea around this is to make sure that you've got the right funnel set up. It can automate some of those funnel processes for your customers or your clients. So it's about, I guess, streamlining your project approaches and making sure that you've got it all in the one place rather than having to have 50 different other programs to make that happen. And all of it is done through this automation. So you can say, I want it to do this, and it will help you find a way in order to do that. This is a paid platform that you do have to utilize based on how many users or how many projects you want to have set up. For those of us who, when it comes to tax time and our accountant says, oh, where's your receipt for this? And you think, damn, not really sure where I popped that one. A tool that can help with that is Dext. So what it does is that when we are in our, at the time we've purchased something for the business, we've got that receipt there, we can actually take a photo of that on our phone, and it can then send to Dext. It can then automate the process to actually calculate what the tax is on that, what the total price was. We can also send it to different integrations. So if you're using Xero as your accounting software, it can sync into that so that you can then reconcile it against that particular transaction. So it's a way to help, I guess, improve that process and make it easier for you when you are managing your books. So probably one of my favorite automation AI tools is Zapier. So Zapier is a tool that basically connects apps together, and it streamlines our processes to make it easier for us so that we don't have to do the manual admin tasks. So basically, it has millions of different options for you to choose from. So it's about putting in there that I want app A, so in this example, Facebook, to go to Gmail or Slack to then connect with either of those tools. And so we're actually able to set up different, I guess, ways in which we can ask it to do things and say it needs to do this, or the trigger needs to be that, so that it can send this email, or it needs to send to our sales channel and tell our team that we've got a new sales lead so that they know to go and follow that up. So there is a realm of possibilities within Zapier. This screenshot is an example of where somebody's contacted us through the Facebook form in an ad. It then tells us from Facebook that we've got a new lead. When that happens, we get an email that then goes out to say thank you for contacting us, and that will be back in touch shortly. And then at the same time, it's also going to trigger a notification to our Slack channel, which we've called New Leads, to tell our team member that we've got a new lead and we want to follow that person up about what it is that they're inquiring about. So it's a way in which we can make some of that process where we would normally manually have to check Facebook to see if we've got leads. Maybe we'd then send an email, and then we might inform the team. It's a way to automate that process so that we can then just say, oh, wow, we've got a new lead. Let's start the conversation from there. So it eliminates some of those processes that we have. I find this particularly helpful when you've got tools such as maybe you might be using a membership sign up on your website for emails, and maybe it doesn't talk directly to your email platform. You might be able to come to Zapier and say, can you talk from my WordPress website to my constant contact form, so that I can make sure I add them to my subscriber database, so that when I'm sending emails out each month, I'm ensuring that I've got the most current and up-to-date members on that list that have subscribed. So it allows us to make sure that that process is integrated, rather than us having to go to WordPress and seeing who signed up to our database, downloading that Excel spreadsheet, and then uploading it to Constant Contact. It does all of that for us and talks to each other. It can even tag the different tags that we need them to add based on the form of where they've potentially signed up on our website. So we in-house here use Gemini because we are Google users, not Microsoft users. So I just wanted to give you an example of the power of what Copilot and Gemini can do. So the way that I like to utilize this is to more summarize meeting notes. So if I've got different files, maybe I've been provided 6 or 7 documents from a client, and I need to understand a little bit more about their business, I might upload those and then say to it, summarize these and bring out the key points, just so that I can get a bit of an overview about what that might look like. Or potentially I might be looking at working on the business and I want to develop some new policies. So I can ask it to actually go and write a policy about something in particular, and then I want it to actually link to our values at KingThing. So what it will do is it will then go and find in our folders, which is connected through our Google Drive, our KingThing document around our values, and then bring those values into the document policy that I've asked it to create. And then lastly, probably a tool I utilize a fair bit is ChatGPT to help me write email responses. So this is where you can actually have the original email that you've got there and say, write a response back to this, maybe mention these points, or maybe you're starting from scratch. So it could be something as simple as write a friendly and professional email response back to offering social media workshops. And then it creates a base that I can then go and customize over the top to help save that time as well. And then on the same thing, you can also use tools such as ChatGPT to help when you are creating maybe even presentation topics. So just to show you how this works, I took the description of what today's presentation was going to be around, and I asked AI to actually tell me, what do you think that this presentation should cover? It then comes back and it breaks down what I should spend each of my time in this presentation talking about. Sometimes that can be helpful to get us started when we're writing presentations, just to help, I guess, that brain conversation happen around brainstorming, and then we can actually add more detail. But you can be as specific as, I want to know what to put on each slide, and it will actually come back to you and say, put these dot points on the slide and these are your talking points. So it can be really helpful to utilize that as a feature, just so that you can see how it works and save up your time as well. And then similarly, I used it to create a proposal, just so you can see how this works. So I've asked it to create a proposal about how we can help with this service. So then it comes back with how we would actually go about that and what that would look like. So something that might have previously taken me 45 minutes to write from scratch has taken me less than a minute to be able to do, because I prompted it and then it's come back with the answer so that I can copy and paste that, tweak it, and then send it off to the person who's asked. So that's some examples of some of the AI tools and how you can utilize them within your small business. As you can see, there are so many different tools that exist out there, so it can be quite overwhelming and they do change all the time. But I did think it would be helpful just at the end of today's session to actually go through some of the things like common concerns and some things that we can do to make sure we're utilizing it correctly. So firstly, some common concerns about AI. So the number one question that's often asked is, will it replace jobs? The best response is not likely. So it really can help with the boring stuff that can be quite tedious, or things that can be time wasting when we could be spending our time doing other things. So allow it to be able to help with that, and then you can work on doing some of those things that you know needs that human element and needs that human development at the time, for the time being. Is it expensive? So most tools, as I mentioned, are free or have a free trial period. And if they do have a cost, it is normally a relatively low cost, because they do want it to be something that most people can tap into or utilize within your business. I think the thing to keep the cost less is to make sure that you're finding AI tools that work for your business and what problems you actually need solving, in terms of reducing some of that time within your business. So working out which platforms are actually right for you and investing in those ones rather than trying to have them all. And can I trust it? So I guess the biggest piece of advice is to always make sure you review any AI output. So make sure you're using it as a helper, not a decision maker, because at the end of the day, it can only learn from all of the other things that you've put into it, or the things that it's learned over the years. So while it's helpful, it might not be completely true. In terms of making sure that you get the best out of AI, it really does come down to how you actually prompt it. So if you're really specific with it and make it understand what it is that you're asking for, it can be really helpful. Whereas if you're quite broad, it can come back nearly, especially when it comes to writing social captions, it comes back quite generic, and it feels very much like the same thing that you see on everybody's posts. So we need to make sure that we're doing some things within those prompts to make sure it feels a bit more human centric. So when we are asking it to write a post, be really specific. So we want to not just write a post, we want to write a friendly Instagram caption for a homeware shop about new arrivals this week. We want to include our goals. We want it to sound warm and welcoming, and we want to add a call to action at the end. We want to say that we want to give some greater context around it. And then we want to make sure we're setting the format. So we either want it to write 3 dot points, or we want to make it under 100 words, and can you give me 2 options with 2 different tones so that I can consider which one I like best? And so then you let it perform its work, and then from there, make sure you utilize follow-up prompts. So maybe it's, can I make it more casual, or can you add a heading, so that you can really push it to be where it is that you want it to be. Even silly things like asking it to remove em dashes or dashes so that it doesn't have the lines in it that you might not want in your post, because that's sometimes a dead giveaway that you've used AI. You can ask it to do that so that it will actually remove those so that you can utilize it. I think the most important thing is when you do use it, and the reason that we have to prompt it so much is the best way to describe it is to think of it as like a junior team member. It can be brilliant, but only if you brief it well. So make sure you give it as much information as possible, because that's going to give you a better result. An example of how I've even done this recently is over the weekend, I was helping my sister write her resume for a graduate position. She had sent me what the job ad was and then her go at the short letter summary. And she'd given it a go, but it felt very generic. And I said, did you ask AI to write this? And she said, oh, only parts, some of it was me. It definitely wasn't. It was definitely all of AI. And that's fine, but I could tell she hadn't thought about how to prompt it better. So I showed her that if you put in the job ad again and then her answers, but also then gave a little bit of background around who she is as a person, and then what her goals are, what she's looking to get out of that role, all of the information that kind of makes it a bit more personalized to bring it into the framework of how they would like that question answered from that job ad. It then generated a very different answer that felt more personalized and something that she could have written herself, not just generated from an AI tool. So it can really make a difference if you know how to actually prompt that AI tool to get you the result that you're after. So again, just some things to remember when you are using AI. It is a really helpful tool, but at the end of the day, you are still the expert. So just keep in mind to always make sure you review what it writes, as AI can make up facts and sound incredibly confident, but it can be actually wrong. So something that's super important, and you need to make sure that it's correct, make sure you double check it and ensure that that's the right fact. Edit for your tone of voice. So if you've got a unique tone of voice in your business, you want to make sure that that is actually being showcased in the content that AI has created. And over time, it might start to learn what that tone of voice looks like, but particularly in the early stages, it's not going to quite have it right. So we want to make sure that it's using words that we would use. It's not adding things that don't feel right or too much jargon. So really making sure that it is for our tone of voice, or even ask it as a prompt that this is what our tone of voice looks like. Can we make sure it aligns with that? Yeah, so I would also suggest to not put private or confidential data into AI tools, especially any customer information. We don't want it to have that information if we know it's private and confidential. We don't want it going out there. As I said before in one of the questions, it is a secure platform because they are designed like that. But like anything in this online space, we do have to be a bit wary. Another thing to remember is to read it aloud. I find that's really helpful to make sure if it makes sense, if it sounds natural, because sometimes when we read it out loud, we start to help catch some of those awkward phrases that it might use, or might be a little bit too Americanized for some of our own content here in Australia. So I've talked a lot about copying and pasting. So don't just copy and paste and then post it on social media or send off that email. If you copy and paste it, that's fine. But then actually go back over it and make sure that it makes sense and it does have those words that you would utilize, or if something doesn't feel quite right, just tweak it. And as I've said a few times today, AI is a great starting point, but it's not a finished product. So make sure you're always adding that personalized touch so that it feels authentic and more like you and less like AI. So that brings us to the end of today's presentation. Are there any more questions before we wrap up today's
Laura, some great closing tips there, I must say. Thank you. I do have some great. So, first one, what is the best AI to use to create project videos or schematic designs to demonstrate project stages?
Ooh, good one. I actually don't know because I haven't had to use that AI tool myself, but definitely something we can look into.
Awesome. Well, once we get the answer from Talora, we'll come back to that person who's asked the question. And another question. Is there an AI tool I can use to give suggestions or improvements to a website or flyer, and also to review things such as SEO rankings and Google AdWords, etc.?
Sorry, you just cut out there. Could you read that question again?
Sorry, Talora. Is there an AI tool I can use to give suggestions or improvements to a website or flyer, and also to review things such as SEO rankings and Google AdWords?
So with the SEO, if you use, I'm just going to go back to my slide where I've got, so you've got Surfer SEO you can look at. You can also look at Jasper to help with that. And even Copy.ai and Hemingway, they all have features in there that can help with some of that SEO stuff and provide tips around how you can improve them from an SEO perspective, and then also how you can help your Google Ads thrive better. The first bit around adding comments and things like that, depending on what documents they're providing them in, there should be tools built into them that actually allows you to add comments for review. Is that what they're meaning by that part? Sorry.
I'm not quite sure. No, they might like to message with another follow-up question.
Follow-up question. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Or anyone else who's got a question. We've still got a couple of minutes. But this has been great, Talora. I'm assuming you can still hear me, and apologies for my connection.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much. It's been, hopefully you've all found something of value and learned about a new AI tool that you can maybe implement into your small business.
Excellent. And I'll just have a last comment and question, I think. Thanks for the presentation, and absolutely need to check. A platypus quiz generated was brilliant, but one answer was incorrect. Luckily, I checked it before generating the quiz at the recent tourism showcase.
Yes.
Awesome.
No, that was lucky, because I know what it's like. I've run a few trivia nights, and when you get people there that are mad trivia people and you get something wrong, they will tell you.
Exactly. Well, unless anyone has any last questions, I'd like to thank Talora for her time. That was so good. Thank you. And I do have another question just popped in. It seems that the prompts and questions are so important. Are there places to get more info on these? And thank you for sharing. I'm not sure about that question. Is that...
I'm assuming they're wanting to know if they could go elsewhere to learn more about what better prompts they can put into AI to make sure they're getting the results that they're after.
Yes.
My best advice would be to actually go to a tool like ChatGPT, or even do a Google search, as I know there's some articles on SEMrush. There's also some on HubSpot, where they actually have some articles around some different prompts that they can suggest, particularly from a marketing perspective. So it does depend on what it is that you're looking at for, to help you learn how to better brief it so that you can ensure you're getting out of it what you're after. But even going to whatever the tool is and doing a little bit of learning from that website to see how they suggest to prompt it, because they're the ones that have designed it. So if you can watch some videos on how they are prompting that tool, that's going to help you as well.
Absolutely. And also suggest getting in touch with the Business Tasmania team, because what we can do is then work out what options exist, whether it's connecting with the Digital Solutions Australian Government team, or whether or not one of the advisors who's got some specialty skills is able to see you in our Tasmania Business Advice Service. So do reach out. And thanks again to Laura, and thank you very much everyone for joining us, and apologies for my connection. We will be sending the slides to you, both mine and Talora's, so you'll know how to get back in touch with Business Tasmania to access support. And also we'll be sending a very short survey, which we'd love for you to complete, to let us know what you thought of today's event, and what other events you would like us to run, whether that be online or face-to-face. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great day. So thank you.
Thank you.